Can we get much higher? So high. From the sounds of that, welcome back, D. Crenny. Album review time. We gonna take it way back, 10 years ago to be exact. Actually, not 10 years yet. It'll be 10 years on November 22nd of this year. And I'm taking it back to Kanye's fifth studio album, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. So I did the albums of the decade, and this album shot off the charts most of the time. So I was like, well, let me do a throwback review. So yeah, I'm basically throwing it back, slinging it back to 2010 for Kanye's, what some would say, greatest album he's ever created. There's a plethora of features on here. It did 496,000 copies, which I think was like his fourth or fifth straight album, doing at least 450 the first week. This album got Best Rap Album for the 54th Grammy Awards, which is in 2012, which would have been for 2011 season. I'm not sure how those seasons go or how they went then. It's just kind of weird with the Grammy Awards. But it did win Best Rap Album when it was nominated, and All of the Lights was nominated for a couple different things where I think it won 2 awards as well. So the album was said to be conceived during some of Kanye's dark moments in Ojai, Hawaii. During some times after he had some self-image issues, I believe in 2009 or so. Then the album was recorded in Honolulu and then in some other places in California and New York City. Producers go from Mike Dean to No ID, DJ Frank E, Bink, RZA. Features from Raekwon, John Legend, Nicki Minaj, Rick Ross, Pusha T, Jay-Z. The artwork, which was made by George Kondo, was always interesting to me. That blurry picture of what could be Kanye or blackmail by like the winged woman. Then there were a bunch of different artworks that accompanied a lot of the different singles and alternative artwork, which I also thought, was a big part of the album that made it, somewhat cooler as well. It's a good album. It is a good album. Is it proclaimed the best album of the decade, best Kanye album ever? I just absolutely do not think that is true. I don't think it's the case at all. I did listen to this a lot, and I still listen to a lot of the songs to this day. But I think that Kanye gets an exception that most artists don't get, and he's just allowed to go out on a limb and just do wild stuff. And if it's experimental and it's just good enough, he just gets the benefit of the doubt, which I don't think some artists do. And I think that is what happens here. Quick synopsis before I do my track by track. I think it starts off decent. It gets incredible in the middle, and then it just ends very strangely. It doesn't cut it, especially for the end tracks for me. And then it was accompanied, which I always felt like hyped this album up a lot more, and I could be completely wrong, was the Runaway video. And he did a good job with marketing that stuff and putting art into this and making art a piece of it and just making it kind of a movement, a motion, like a thing, like poetry in motion. He made it more than I think what it actually is, which brought it up to other levels where people were like, man, look what Kanye's doing, look what Kanye did. And, it filtered onto his other albums, his later releases, which I just felt like kept getting worse and worse and worse because of the praise I believe he got from this. Let's get into it. My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, 5th studio album from rapper, producer, Kanye West, track by track. So number 1, Dark Fantasy. I don't want to say I remember, but every time I listen to it, I feel like I remember. Is that when this came on, I knew this was going to be a really good album the first time I heard it. Nicki really sets it off at the beginning, and the build up, I believe, is better than the song. Now, what Kanye does do in Dark Fantasy is that he gives a lot of quotables. Just like that line, the plan was to drink until the pain's over, but what's worse, the pain or the hangover? Like, some of the bars he taps in on this album, this song, some of the quotables are really, really cool. Then he follows it up with, fresh air rolling down the window. Too many Urkels on your team, that's why your wind's low. Like, some people say that's corny, but it's like, man, it's kind of good. How you play on those lines, those bars. Beat is cool. I do like on here that he didn't get complex, and I thought he got a little more rinky dink, which I think what people enjoyed. He put his twist on like some more rinky dink sounds and made them sound good, and it wasn't those complex numbers productions that Kanye normally does. And that might have been Mike Dean and No ID keeping them grounded on here, but I know RZA was on this one, and it was definitely some RZA influence in here. Number 2 is Gorgeous with Kid Cudi and Raekwon. This song always just gave me an average vibe. It just never really hit me like I really wanted it to. I used to listen to this. I had friends was like, man, that sound hard. Man, that sound hard. And I was just like, man, I just don't got it. I just don't get it. I don't have it in me. This song just doesn't get that out of me. Kid Cudi does a nice number, and Raekwon is Raekwon, but Gorgeous just never gave me the feeling that I was hoping for, and maybe that's my fault. Maybe the song is really good, but I just had such high expectation with these three, superstars on the track. I was expecting what I then was to get from the next 4 or 5 songs. So number 3 is Power. I mean, for the most part, this song is everything you want and then some. A number of different writers, number of different producers, and nobody lets anybody down on here. It is no one managed to have all that power, and I'm sure looking at today, Kanye has a lot of power, and I'm sure those words don't so much pertain to him. I'm sure he don't feel those lines anymore, but man, this song is great. So then you follow that up with number 4, which is All of the Lights interlude, which then leads into All of the Lights. I actually do like the placement of the interlude right before All of the Lights, because All of the Lights, Rihanna, and then I guess obviously a bunch of different things with who is this song for, who is it made for, and just cool stories when you hear it is one of those songs that could probably never be duplicated. Should be getting samples soon, I would imagine. All the Lights featured vocals from Tony Williams, The Dream, Charlie Wilson, John Legend, Ellie Jackson, La Roe, Alicia Keys, Elton John, Fergie, Ryan Leslie, Drake, Alvin Fields, and Kim Lewis. Number 6 is Monster featuring Jay-Z, Rick Ross, Nicki Minaj, and Bon Iver. Monster was forever my favorite song on here in just listening terms for a long time, for years, and I always just thought it was Nicki's coming out party. I thought she just made sure she did her thing on here, making sure nobody forgot that Onika was the next thing in rap, and she shined. Jay shined. Kanye was good. Rick Ross, couple words, I believe. 7 is So Paul, Swiss Beats, Jay-Z, Pusha T, Sci-Hi the Prince, and RZA. Same exact thing, flipping it back. Swizzy starts it off with the Swizzy stuff, and Sci-Hi, Pusha T. I mean, everybody. I'm not gonna, it's a 7-minute track of greatness. I'm so appreciative to have, like I said, just this. It's hard to find I'll say one thing. It's hard to find album with tracks that hit this hard back to back to back. And I'll say that even following with number 8 for Devil in a New Dress, which to date is my favorite song on here, one of my favorite songs of all time, because what Rick Ross and what Kanye do on here, the bars, the synergy is just so great. When Ross verse come in, Kanye says his part, and it's like just the name, the devil in a new dress. It's just man. Number 9 is Runaway featuring Pusha T. So this is where I begin to have my hms and ha's with the album. Runaway is where Kanye hops on the piano, or whoever takes the piano and turns that into the production and hoops and hollers, in my opinion, about running away from me, and just kind of feel like getting off track, not really hip hop anymore, switching it up, which is cool. You know, that's cool and all. In a sense, was it dope to experiment on it? Yes, but don't give it just these raving reviews that I just thought were warranted, I guess you can say. You give these raving reviews, it's not even warranted. Just don't think that's fair to, like I said, to other artists that wouldn't get that due. But Runaway is alright. Alright is really it. Hell of a Life was number 10. Hell of a Life contains sample of She's My Baby, and I just always felt like this was probably my least favorite song on here almost every time. I feel like it's just so skippable. Number 11 is Blame Game featuring John Legend. It contains elements of April's 14th written by Richard James. It could have been shortened down. Good production, really good production. Mike Dean, DJ Frankie E, and Kanye on this one. 7 minutes and 50 seconds, 8-minute tracks. I also think Kanye gets away with lengthening out tracks, and they shouldn't be lengthened out. Blame Game is a really good song. Good production, good song, too long. Number 12 is Lost in the World featuring Bon Iver. Number 13 is Who Will Survive in America. Lost in the World and Who Will Survive in America features additional vocals by Charlie Wilson, K Fox, Tony Williams, Alicia Keys, Ellie Jackson, and La Rooks. Lost in the World is 4 minutes, and it's that moment, it's that thought process, I guess you could say. Not really a song. I think more so just a moment, or an encapsulation of time for Kanye here, which is cool. It's just not what deserves to be something of greatness, shall you say. Does it complement the album? I could say that. Good placement. Does it make some sense? Sure. And then 13, Who Will Survive in America. It contains samples of Comet Number 1 performed by Gil Scott-Heron. Number 14, See Me Now featuring Beyonce, Charlie Wilson, and Big Sean. Produced by Lex Luger, No ID, and Kanye West. This song should have been actually on the album. It is an iTunes Store bonus track in 2010. Don't know how much people were directly accessing iTunes, but I think iTunes was grabbing for, the content and whatnot. So with it being a bonus track, that's cool. It is a good song. I do like it. A little bit too long, 6 minutes. I said them stretched out songs that Kanye does, so unnecessary. But it turns out to be a good song. Big Sean does this thing on here. Beyonce is really good on here, and Uncle Charlie's good on virtually anything you put Uncle Charlie on. It's a legend, and if you put him on a track, give him his direction, and he is going to give you some good stuff even to today. So overall, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is greatness. Is it a top album of the decade? Absolutely. Was it one of the better albums of 2010? Absolutely. Not arguing with that. Number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 5? Ooh, that's tough. Maybe in the year 2010. But for 10 years of total music, I can't give it that. It has some Really interesting experimental moments. Cool album cover. Kanye production. Kanye in his mold. Kanye producing it in his elements. And then giving it to us how he feels. There is ultimately something to say about that he did do it his way. And I do think that's what some of the people feel about this album, which makes it even greater. There are reasons that make you feel better about an album. And if that's the case, I totally agree. I'm not going to argue that. Sonically, though, it's just hard for me to say every song was boom, 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 boom. An hour and 8 minutes was just all just crazy good, where it was an hour and 8 minutes better than everything else I heard for 10 years. And once again, that was one of the reasons I did this review. I enjoyed it. D. Crenny review. This is Kanye's 5th studio album way back when. Check me out on the next review. Holla at your boy.